Hello, Edwin.
Hello, everyone.
We can get right into it, I think. I'm Mark. I'm a curator founder. And then on here are many of the analysts, also our CTO and some other people.
All right.
Do you want to say something before we get started, or you want to go straight into questions?
Let me introduce myself. I think that was going to be interesting for everyone.
Sure.
Yes, I'm Edwin Mata. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I've been 10 years in the. I'm an M&A lawyer. That's how I started my career, doing mergers and acquisitions for family offices here in Europe, and maybe doing more the relocation and division and decision of assets. So then I started into a tech company. I was the head of legal of a company called Signature, which is the biggest competitor of DocuSign. So I was doing electronic signatures, and in 2017, we earned 1.2 million from the European funds. It was called on the H2020 grants, and it was done for the creation of digital identity, sovereign identity, and smart contracts optimizations. That's how I entered in 2016 in the blockchain space. I was looking into solutions at the time for how to embed off-chain data into on-chain data. I didn't know it was called like that. I had no clue in 2016, so I was Googling things. I ended up with oracles. That was my first white paper that I read. Actually, it was from Chainlink. And that's how I started understanding that there was a possibility of embedded real world information into on-chain at the time, into the blockchain. I created then a company in 2019 because I got hired to create something that was sold. 2020, with the money of my exit, I created Brickken. We were at the time five co-founders, myself, an M&A lawyer. We had a market capitalist analyst and venture funds called Manu. He's no longer in the team, but he was a co-founder at the time. Head of blockchain. He's one of the lead auditors in Open Zeppelin, one of the smart contracts auditing house, one of the most important. Then we had a media buyer, an operation analyst. It's a guy who at the time was 22, but is considered a genius because he has over like 150 IQ. So with that in mind, that is the team behind Bricket, because some of the analysis that I read was either we're crypto boys to the moon, we don't have the know-how, we don't have the expertise. And I even read that the technology that we try to do was simple and easy. So I'm a little impressed with the comments and I want to know how that came. So just flow me with questions, because so far my trail of evidences, because I'm a lawyer, I work on evidences and data, has been that in 2021, we applied for the biggest grant in Spain for startups and techs. It's called Neotech. It's under the European Fund. We got it. We got 325K from the government in Spain, who did a due diligence, who analyzed our data, who went into legal matters, who went into compliance, who went into understanding the tech, went to everything. So at least the Spanish government gave us 325. Not to make it simple enough, we applied for the financial sandbox, which if anybody who's aware, there's sandbox environments across now the world. The first one was actually in the UK. That's how actually the fintech neobanks started booming, because of this financial sandbox, which is on the governance of different public administrations. The one in Spain is under the guidance of the Bank of Spain, the Spanish Security Commissioner, and the public administration handling the public pension funds. So we entered the financial sandbox to guess what? To test our tech legality and compliance. So doing for 6 months, we were conversating with the Spanish government, starting to understanding how we were approaching the security market and how our decentralized application, which can go white level, can do whatever. We more like a Shopify. It's legal and compliant. So with that little intro, now grill me with questions. I'm ready.
Okay. I don't have questions on the tech itself. Me, for a while, I've been interested to like maybe launching a security token. So I'm familiar with the Reg CS in the US, how you have to deal with that. And either Sahil or Edwin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in order to sell a security, it has to be done on a broker-dealer license platform, at least in the US. I suspect it's a lot of other jurisdiction, it's the same. And if ever the token is being traded on the secondary market, it still has to be done on a broker-dealer platform that is licensed. Is that correct?
You're talking about doing an IPO and then jumping into what it's called a secondary market like NASDAQ. That's a public market, correct?
No, I'm talking about like for tokens, a security token are treated exactly like security, like a stock equity and all that stuff.
Yeah, but so what happens when like, for example, I'm just going to ask questions before I answer you because you're coming into the direct public market with a public offering with certain guarantees and protection and middlemen, which goes usually that securities laws were enacted, so there was always a middleman because that was how it was supposed to be the public offering. Because at the time when there was all these laws created, there was no access for private companies to really go public like it was like you can do it now through either a crowdfunding license, which in the United States you can use crowdfunding campaigns, or you can use it to the issuance of securities via initial public offering because you enter in a secondary market such as NASDAQ. We're talking about United States, and yes, Reg D, just if you want to sell to American residents, it's not citizens, American residents, you can do it through Reg D. And in other parts of the world, we're very similar because we started with the highway test, 1954. So we can go on all of that. So with that brief information, what do you think we're doing here in Brickken? Because I'm not issuing public offerings on regulated secondary markets. Why? Because even in Europe, we don't even have regulated market. Pilot regime started in March 2024. We're going to see 2023, sorry, we're going to see the first STO exchanges. We'll see who wins. Probably Group 6, which is the owner of most of the secondary exchanges in Europe. They're already going to issue that. Securitize could be one of them. Right now, what we're doing in Brickken is, first of all, yes, there's no broker, there's no custodian. It's self-custody because that's possible. And the thing is, we don't enter into the tokenization space. What I will provide in reality, it's a management tool. Why? Because digital assets have a token life cycle or digital life cycle. You have the creation and the minting, you have the distribution and the selling, and then you have the management, and then, well, maybe there's a fourth phase, which is the decline or the liquidation of the asset. We manage the three. Companies who want to tokenize themselves, they grab our technology. We are like the Shopify in the sense that we are not the broker because Brickken never handles nor the digital asset, nor creates it, nor distributes it, nor manages it. We're not a broker because we don't even manage the digital asset nor any of the treasuries. We never touch any of the money, nor of the crypto, nor anything of the possible ways to get funded. So with that at hand, it's the company creating by himself something that is going to put into private markets or into public markets. That's for the decision of the issuer. Now, what happens with the legality? A lot of the things are covered in our platform, a lot. But then again, we're in securities. So, for example, in Spain, let's make a good example. If you want to issue debt in Spain, you need to have a white paper done by asset value management. That was a very bad translation. It is called by the government licensed entity who has to issue the white paper and then has to submit the white paper to the Spanish Security Commission. We don't do that because we're only tech. But since we know there's some things that need to be done on the web, you know what we did? We went around the world and we signed, right now we have over 62 law firms agree on our partnership deal. So if somebody wants to issue a security in the United States and the tech is there, but let's say he wants to do it on the Reg D or Reg A, I don't care because he makes a submission against the SEC or because he wants to put into cold storage the digital asset over a year before he starts selling to residents. We don't care. We don't do that. The technology itself for the flow of that, it can be done. But if he has something that it's a manuality, bureaucratic thing that it cannot be embedded on the tech, he can connect to any of the law firms we have partnered up with in the United States. Or if that happens in India, the same. He grabs the tech, takes it to India, and issues the security in India. And if he doesn't know because there's a legal burden that he has to surpass, he can connect to any of the law firms that we have already in India. And that's happening all over the world. I have a whole team right now in sales called a channel sales manager who's going around the world just seeing what countries we don't have a law firm. And then he does, but we also expanded to marketing agency. We were expanding to auditing firms. Right now, for example, we partnered up in Spain. Again, with who? Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I'm hoping that in the next couple of months I'm gonna land Ernst & Young. I'm also right now negotiating with Accenture because they're super big in digital assets, and I'm also negotiating with Grant Thornton because he was one of the first powerhouses at least in Europe on the blockchain space. And why are they signing with me? Because it's super simple. I give them the tech, and then they give them all the consultancy firms so they can issue the securities bottom. Now, where does that leave me here and me? I'm just a tech provider. Do I need to be licensed? No, because if I started my conversation with it, I told you I was ended up with financial sandbox under the supervision of the Spanish Security and Exchange Commission, which is validating the law across Europe. And guess what did I test it with them or what did I got validated against? Now, this is a question, Patrick.
The thing that you need to be really big and spending a lot of money to get licensed as a dealer broker.
No, why would the government say that? That's a bad answer. Why would the government say you need a lot of money to do something when I enter against them? What is the relationship with what I do and money?
I guess they told you that you don't need the license.
Ah, yes, they told me. So what is the relationship with money?
You think you're non-custodian, so you don't need it?
And then here's another one. You know that in Europe, they threw out the legislation virtual asset providers.
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
All right, but then in the analysis that you were performing, you're talking about compliance and money. So how would you establish an analysis with a...
Because your website was really not clear. Honestly, what you described is not what I understood at all. I thought you were trying to sell security of your clients.
All right, we can go into all of that, but the track record is the track record. And if you Google Brickken, you will see that there's different aspects as to how everything went and the fonts and the Spanish sample. So, but either way, when you do...
a question here?
Yes, of course.
Edwin, don't you think that customers or clients or even people who want to buy your token should be able to come on your website and get all the necessary information to understand what you do from your website? Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree. But then when I go and create a due diligence before I perform a public writing, I also write to the company and say, hey, can we have a chat?
Okay,
Or I go
let
to
me
the
take it
Telegram.
from there. That's a very good point, because that's not what we do. So I think just like some of our analysts didn't spend tons and tons of time to understand your product, you have also not spent tons of time to look at our product. That is a problem in the industry. There's thousands of projects out there, and people can spend very little time to understand them, to make decisions to use a product or invest in it and so forth. No one can be expected to take all the time necessary. And that's why so many people are getting scammed. And what our platform is doing is fight that by allowing all of us to tell what our experiences were. So we have different types of reviews. I personally wrote a micro review on your project, which is something we do. You take 10, 15 minutes to see what your first impression is, you write that down, and you post that first. Because I've done it on 10 other projects, and many of the others are clear scams, and I don't want to put any more time into. So I put that first, and then we actually had one guy who is a strong supporter. I like him very much. We had many conversations with him, me personally with him. I have absolutely no issue with him at all. I'm trying to explain our process, and I hope that you can understand that this process is what's needed in this industry. It allows for all of us here who look at your project and decide to maybe invest or not, or to support, it allows us to give a quick first impression. And then it allows people like Charoon, who was there, to come, and he tried to educate me. He actually said, hey, here's some links for stuff you might learn that might change your mind. And I replied to him, oh, thank you, that's helpful. As soon as I have time, I will look at it. And then I will go. The way our system works is reviews can actually be updated exactly for this process. So people can come in, give their first opinion, and as a community, collaboratively, we can actually learn the truth. First, the micro reviews are there for us to understand, do we even as a community want to spend more time looking into this? Because no one can do what you're suggesting, is spend hours and hours on all the projects that are out there.
I agree.
On top of that, you actually have the ability to register an account and engage with analysts on this platform and say, hey, I get what you're saying here, but look, here's a link to something, to all the stuff that you've mentioned in your introduction. I haven't seen any of that on your main page. And your main page didn't even make me want to Google more. But if you come and say, hey, okay, I don't know why you think like this, but look at this link. We have a government, this and that. I'm like, oh, cool, let me check it out. And then I might update my review.
I agree. I actually love that, the aspect of educating and doing an analysis. But the thing is, when you create an analysis, you cannot throw 3 pointers, right? So either you know what you're doing and saying, because then you transmit the message as to potential perspectives. So for example, I saw 500K thrown for free that is what I need, at least to comply with legality. So it's like you telling other people that you know the space, that you are a security expert, and that you say this is how it's done. So you're not really doing an analysis. Like it should be a disclaimer and it's opinion based. What do I do? For example, I'm gonna make it up. Let's say I'm a butcher and I'm a tech fan. Why? I'm gonna make it super drastic. I cannot go and say Facebook is easy and it's illegal because they use data. And you need 10 billion because it's like my expertise is a butcher, and I can probably say, you know what? I'm gonna create an analysis based on what I know, and then say, hey people, I do this for a living, but I think Facebook is doing it wrong because it's using data. Here is some links as to what is happening. And then I do not know how much it costs the legality or the expertise, but I believe that based on this, so it's like it's an opinion based. But when you make declarations like that written, you tell other people that you, first of all, know what you're talking about and you're an expert, and maybe you are or not, but you have to prove yourself that you are before you start telling that this is how it's done. Because that analysis, which is why I entered here and I wrote you and I was like, okay, time to clean this up, is first of all, now we have the question. And that's what I threw it. Because again, you're like, that you need a lot of money. And I'm still arguing and trying to understand where does that declaration comes from? Because it's a statement.
So our platform, we're doing ratings and reviews. It is like Yelp, but for crypto. People can come in and give. Now, the way we try to avoid that wrong information comes into the platform is twofold. We have upvotes. So people can come in and upvote those reviews that they like the most. And they carry the highest weight for a project overall rating. You came in at the very start of this process. If you maybe would have waited a week or 2 weeks, more analysts would have come in and reviewers would have come in and gave each other feedback, and the whole thing evolves over time. And what that allows is that when those opinions bubble to the top, and the best ones bubble to the top, then someone can come in and say, okay, this is a very highly rated review, but let me check the factuality of this. And then someone can go into the comments. Sorry, we're in very early stage, so we don't have the flagging feature implemented yet, but very soon there will be a flagging feature where you can come and you flag and you can say, I'm proving with a bunch of sources that this claim is factually wrong. And then that review, even if it's highly upvoted and everything like that, can be taken down. So I think you just have to understand, we have to have a little bit of a balance because we have to allow the community to say how they feel, whether it's right or wrong. There has to be a place for that. And this is the place. And we have to allow it time for the community to discuss, to find out what's true and what is wrong. And then after that process has happened, at the end, we can identify, okay, these are real projects and these are not. Because your project is launched and hidden among 1,000 scammy projects. We all know that.
Of course.
So we need this process that we have. And you coming on here, discussing with us, giving this information, this is all part of the process of being able to separate a project like yours from all the other projects that are out there. Sorry, let me quickly just, Yil has been raising the hand for a while. Maybe, Yil, would you like to ask your question?
Not a question, but an observation in general. So Edwin, sometimes what happens is the impression which is given by the website or platform is slightly different than what the founders are intending. For instance, going by the terms and conditions of your website, as well as the offering, your various offerings which are mentioned on your platform, firstly, they are nice. But again, it would have been amazing had you clarified that you are operating within the financial sandbox of Spain. There are a lot of countries wherein you can operate these security token launch platforms without getting licensed by virtue of being in sandbox. Had you mentioned that, there would have been a lot of clarification from someone such as Patrick or someone such as me, because as a lawyer, I would definitely be looking at a platform which is duly licensed, because your platform is helping clients create tokens as well as offering the tokens and also connecting them with investors. And these are regulated activities in most of the jurisdictions wherein you are required to be licensed. Securitize, etc., they are also operating in a similar fashion in various other jurisdictions. So if you, just 1 second, okay. So if you clarify on your platform that you are operating under the legal regime of the financial sandbox in Spain, that would have addressed most of the concerns pertaining to your compliance and governance program.
All right. So we're not Securitas because Securitas themselves are the broker and custodians. They're the middleman. So it's a different approach because this still or T0, which is another huge one, or Arcax in UK, those are licensed and compliant because they're the ones connecting the issuers and the clients or the investors. And they're the ones actually managing how the funds get transmitted and managing the digital assets. So it's a completely different thing. I cannot work and put a logo that says that I'm on the sandbox regime because it's long ago done. So that's over. It's not that you go with a license. It's a protocol establishes, hey, we're testing this. Good luck. See you later. Don't put that you work with me because I'm not giving you a license. What you did is was test, and I came up with a legal opinion based on the transitions that you and me made, and this is where we land. And they say, okay, then they're just gonna be transparent with you guys. If they say what you're doing, it's super great, but we cannot be considered illegal because you're playing with corporate law, you're playing with civil code, you're playing with the securities market, and you're telling the world that hey, issuers can go directly into the market to make an offering and they can comply with the securities law because blockchain is not what added layer. It's just that now we need to understand how it goes. And based on that, guess what? A new market law in Spain came out. I was not the only one testing securities. Actually, Securitas is still in the market. Token City is there. For Search 34, a big fund is always there. And they just created a new law it's not a new law, actually in Italy, Germany, Germany is creating an issue in the next couple of months, the Digital Securities Act. In Spain, they just launched the new markets law. It was done at the beginning of April. And now the World DLT appears. And it says, if you want to issue a DLT, you have to do all of these things. And guess what? It's a lot of pressure going for the middleman, who's a custodian or who's a broker. But still, it's what happens when the company itself is the one issuing the credit into the market. Well, you need to have a white paper and have it registered before the Spanish Securities Commission. Does the issuer need to be licensed? It doesn't say absolutely anything about having to be licensed. Who needs to be licensed is the middleman. And then if it's the issuer doing it directly, it's still saying that, oh, this is getting too complex, but for now, let's put a patch and then send it out into the law. So, Sahil, I do agree that some terms, and maybe the website is not the best. We have a marketing team, and then we do have a lot of clients. We're probably trustworthy for some, not for all, and I understand. But we also have to play with the marketing. So I'm leaving some things for marketing. I'm taking care of legality compliance because we have a legal team here. And then this is how you do it. You mix because I don't want to enter the market saying I'm Securitas because Securitas website and everything since 1980s. And yes, securities and all of that. But that's the whole thing. I'm not going to innovate doing what other people are doing. I'm going to innovate on my own terms. And I'm telling the world that securities are possible and the issuance of them are legal, compliant under my tech. And if needed, they can get an extra layer. So sometimes you just have to merge. But what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue doing, is being ourselves with our modus operandi, which is working. And yes, the website might have that trigger of a gamer, but maybe that trigger is getting us at least 20 leads per week because some people say, oh, you know what? This is innovation and this is cool and this is sexy. I don't care what the word is, but sometimes when you do marketing, you don't tell them I'm the bank because Revolut is a bank, but nowhere do they go and issue the same kind of like modus operandi that if you go to a Santander website, just an opinion. But I do agree, some disclaimers or validations could have been better, but I cannot put that I working under the sandbox because that was just a testing environment and they didn't give me a license. When you test, it's not that you come up with a document saying completely legal. It's just an opinion base that is done in a private matter between a private company and a public institution. So, Sahil, did I answer you?
Yes, Edwin, and I'm glad to see that you are open to change your disclaimers or include certain verbiage out there in your disclaimers and terms in order to show that you are acting in accordance with applicable laws of the land. Now, as far as the sandbox is concerned, I have been associated with sandbox of a few countries, especially Singapore and some Caribbean nations. So I do know that sometimes when a particular venture completes sandbox successfully, they just issue a completion certificate. They don't issue a license. But
There
that
is a message.
yeah, so that completion certificate or that certificate of participation in financial sandbox, that actually provides a further assurance to someone who is looking to utilize your platform or who is even looking to go for your token offerings, your own token.
I could agree with you here, but it also puts me in an endangered situation where I can say that I got licensed by the Spanish security for the issuing of securities under my own terms. It's a double-edged sword because some people might not read that say it's a certificate of completion. It's not even a certificate here in Spain. It's just a one-pager saying, hey guys, we just finished a relationship. Our relationship is done. You tested all of this and we acknowledge that blah, blah, blah. So it's like we shake hands. But if I put that on the web page, a lot of people will come and say, oh, you're licensed. I'm not licensed. That would be a lie. It's I don't need a license. But now just gonna add another layer. For example, the virtual asset provision, virtual service asset provision, which is a thing that is in all European countries. And I said it to Patrick before. Cryptocurrency converters, custodian of digital assets, and I don't remember the third leg. You have to apply before the public administration governing body in every country that is managed by someone. Here in Spain is the Bank of Spain. You know what I did? I went to apply as a cryptocurrency converter, as a digital asset provision, and guess what? They didn't register me. And you were going to say, oh, that's bad. No, that's actually super good. Why? Because it fulfilled what I just telling absolutely everyone. And the Bank of Spain already knew me because I was in that financial sandbox, not under the direct supervision, but under the auxiliary body because it was the SEC, the Spanish funds, and the Bank of Spain. So when you do the sandbox, you have conversations with the three, but one is the lead. So why am I super happy that I didn't get in? Because establishing that compliant level, I'm not a cryptocurrency converter, saying that you don't sell cryptocurrencies under my own method, and that I'm not a custodian. So it's not that they didn't want me, or it's not like I'm illegal. They just said, hey, your business does not fall into you having to be registered because you're not providing these services. So another thing of why I'm super happy, because if I would have been there, okay, fine, I apply. It took me 1 year to actually back and forth because I was fighting to get in. I was not fighting for the no. I was fighting to get in because I also know from a past experience that when you are a lawyer, you don't go for the license itself sometimes. You also go for the no, because both is a validation statement. So not even in Spain or in Europe, I'm considered a virtual asset service provider, a BAS. All right, Patrick, your question.
Yes. As I was saying earlier, I'm interested to maybe launch a security token at some point. And when I read your website, I don't know if Mark, you can share your screen and we can go there, but it's written on the very first part of the website that you will help me launch and raise capital, alternative, stuff like that. So I'm still confused right now. It's written create a token. So I suspect you're able to automatically create a security token. That I understand. What else does your platform do? Because it's confusing me because all of the website is written like you're a security dealer broker. It's not. So I'm a bit confused. What do I get out of your technology?
Pass it out to the marketing team, this awareness. I just put in the chat a demo. In 3 minutes, you will see how it's a Shopify tool.
Okay.
You can create, you can manage. I'll suggest you do it on your free time just because 3 minutes we cannot share audio, but that's the unique selling point. Because what you do is we divided the token lifecycle in 3 parts, like I previously explained, which is the creation. We don't create. Brickken does not execute the smart contract. This was our first client in Panama, actually. This is the offering page. In Panama, they didn't have to do anything, actually. They just created a white paper because Panama law or whatever. They're not selling to American citizens, for example, because they're not going to register before Reg D. But they are in the process of talking to a law firm to see if they can create a new offering specifically for residents in the UK. So this page is live. Anybody can invest here. But the thing is, there's a lot of things as to why we're not so much of a public statement. So this is how, obviously, this is a testing environment because I don't have access to the client's dashboard. So we just created this mockup. to show that when you create a token, you have the information of your token. And here are some things that legality-wise are super cool. I come from the electronic signature world, so that means like the DocuSign. So I came to understand that the world was innovating and digitizing how the contracts were being signed. So I know that, for example, a container for the rights and obligations was a paper, then it came into a document online, so Word or whatever, sent through an email for the signature. So when I created Brickken, I'm adding a lot of the layers of electronic signatures. I'm going to start creating more functionality because the token itself inside has a contract embedded. So when you put this and they say documents to be stored inside the token, you're actually signing the contracts because when you do the completion, both parties are agreeing and then people are checking on the checkbox. So the contracts are being signed. Subscription agreement gets signed or a shareholders agreement gets signed or whatever legality gets signed because that's embedded in the token. Then you create here your offerings. So for example, if a company wants to create the first version here, they will create it. They can call it seed round, private A, I don't care. Here they have all the information of the KYC. So people who want to invest with them, they have to review their information. They can whitelist it or not, or reject it. Securities in our platform are not tradable on secondary markets because secondary markets for securities are yet to exist. So it's on a P2P base. So if Nico here will be selling to Ludovico and sends the security, he has a security with no further that. It's blocked because Ludo will have to go to the ISD page, will have to go to the ISD page, sign in, register, and pass the KYC. Until he passes the KYC, then that transmission becomes validated because it's not public. People, Nico to Ludo, and the owner and the issuer knows who's Nico and who's Ludo. And then here you have your cap table, you have some, what we call a cap table, investor manager or whatever. So you have here some actions to perform for Ludo or Nico. Here, yes, this is the environment. We don't have it yet. Here's where the marketplaces go, which we're actually starting to develop. No, not starting to develop. Starting to test in another environment where we're going to have all the connections to the different offers, whatever. And here you have how to create the website that you saw. The website that you saw with all the information. Here you can create whatever information. So that deploys through here. All right. So everything that we do, Brickken is not there. We do have scroll contracts. So when the issuer creates an offering, he puts a soft cap and a hard cap. Until the soft cap is reached, the issuer cannot go claim against the smart contract back. So the issuer deploys money into the scroll contract. The scroll contract has a lot of validation points, one of them being the soft cap. Until soft cap is reached, then the issuer cannot go claim. So that's like the flow. We never manage cryptocurrencies. It's all self. I think I have an account with this ones. It's all self-custodian. So this is what I do. I just give you the infrastructure. For example, here, I don't know what's, oh yeah, I pass the KYC. If I will accept the terms and conditions here, I already passed the KYC here. I will request a whitelisted. So here, the issuer will receive Edwin Mata email, the status, so I can check if I want to have such person, the wallet address. In the back, we use SumSwap. SumSwap is the biggest provider of exchanges of KYC. So we do KYCs for identity, proof of address, and then also for the wallets. And for the issuers, we do a KYB. The KYB is performed by, we have a huge KYB, which is basically bylaw, certificate of incorporation, UBO, proof of funds, and various things before even we can allow people to issue. We're doing due diligence at a very heavy extent.
Okay, so just not to interrupt, but let's say that I want to sell a security token and it's my own token. Okay, I know two jurisdictions, Singapore and the US. If I want to issue a security token and I do it on my own, it's unregistered. I have to follow the regulation of the US or Singapore and those jurisdictions. And as far as I understand, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I need to do it on a platform that is licensed. If I do it on Tokeny or Securitize, like you mentioned, what is your platform doing that is different than them? How do I merge like Securitize versus you so that there's benefit on both sides?
Already I'm in conversations with UPF, sorry. I just received an email from UPF. I'm already in conversations with T0, Securitize, Arcax, even in Singapore, you got IX Swap. So those are regulated secondary markets. That means that the
Okay.
secondary market is tradable at the issuer does not longer know who's the secondary market transmitters, because in the middle is the broker managing all the KYCs and investors data. Because, for example, Apple does not know who all the investors are. He can claim against the broker who's dealing the securities under his name, but he no longer has a know-how of who's holding who, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's a public market and that's a public issuance in a secondary regulated market. So for those cases, what we're gonna do is, and I'm already in conversations even with Group 6, because I'm not gonna enter into into the market when you sell securities at a private level, because this is considered still a private level because it's under your website, and then you are allowing and telling who can invest. It's not anonymous at all. So that means you have a full agreement that is signed between the issuer and Nicolas Gonzalez, saying, Nicolas Gonzalez, hey, you want to enter into my shareholding? This is how it's done. In the United States, it's complicated because business angel needs to be registered as a qualified investor. So the United States still have to fulfill all of those things. If you want to do it at a private level, you still have to comply with all of those things. I do not know the Singapore law, so sorry. I'm not going to enter into that. I'm not yet studied. So we provide a tool for the management of the digital assets, the creation at the private level, where you have to understand who are your investors and what is that relation, and you fulfill that requirement. Then, if you want to connect to that anonymous secondary market, we have negotiations, because the idea here is we're going to start adding functionalities to the platform so you can connect and trade them to them via an API. So you provide the allocation to the secondary exchange, where that just becomes anonymous, and it becomes a broker's responsibility to manage all the data of the investors and for them to be able to fulfill the requirements for the secondary trading, which is here. The secondary trading is at the P2P level, which is legal.
In the US, it's legal if you don't do it on a broker-dealer platform?
Yes, because what do the startups do and angel lists do? You can create syndications, right?
Yeah. But those, I was under the impression they were, Angel List was licensed, no? I know Republic is.
Yeah, but Republic is the middleman. Angel List, it's just connecting, but here comes the difference. In Angel List, you create a syndicate of investors, but Angel List does not custody or broker the deal. Republic, on the other hand, manages the whole process and flow, and even the funds. They get transmitted first to Republic and then from Republic. That's the thing. When you create the middleman who is either connecting and fulfilling all the data of the investment and all the money of the investment, then either they become, in many countries, a crowdfunded license, which is applicable, or they go through a broker deal. So it kind of depends what is the output or input that you're creating in that security issuance inflow. But you can create securities in the United States, because who does it like that? Realty, you know who's Realty? It's the biggest. They issue their own securities. They don't tokenize of third parties. They tokenize of themselves. So here you can have a more output.
And they don't need to register with the government?
They register the securities with the government, but does not have a license of broker deal. Securities in many countries still, you have to send a white paper. Sometimes registering is a trick word, because it will mean sometimes that you go and you get a license and a validation or something. Here, for example, in Spain, when you issue a debt security, I'm not even talking about token or offering, your white paper that is created by the Agencia de Valores, I'm gonna get that word. White paper that is created by the Agencia de Valores, I'm gonna get that word. Stock agency, okay, it's not the correct word. Either way, in Spain, when you have a debt issuance, you go to this validator, which is ANEAFE, Investment Assessment Financial Company. Let's call it like that. They create the white paper and they sign the white paper. They're already under the license. They do have a license to act like that, and they're registered before the Spanish Security Commission. But here, what I'm telling you, this validated entity creates the white paper, and people will think is, oh, now he has to go register it before the Spanish Security Exchange Commission. This happens also in Italy, it happens in France. It's like the submission is done via email, because the law establishes that you have to issue the white paper, but it does not establish that you have to register the white paper. So we don't register the white paper, we just send it for acknowledgement, and that's it. And then the Security Exchange Commission answers, yes, it's an issuance of a security, all good. Or if they say something, it's just they send you back and it's, hey, this is whatever. But they don't validate and say this is a public issuance under a broker or a custodian, because it's not like that. So I think in the space of the security, there's a lot of misinformation or mistrials because everybody's thinking sometimes some things, but securities have been issued throughout. Startups issue securities all the time, right? Because we get funded at seed round and we get funded at Series A. We do it with F. That's a public issuance, and yet it's still private. And we don't have to broker a deal because we go around asking our friends and family, or we publish in our website, hey, I'm in a seed round, or we publish on LinkedIn, hey, I'm looking for business angels trying to invest, who wants to jump in, this is my investment. We still do that. We don't use a crowdfunding unless we want to go to Crowdkill or Kickstarter or Republic or whatever.
But in the US, it's not a white paper you need, it's a prospectus, a PPM.
Yeah, white papers, prospectus is a synonym.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The way I understand, I don't know too much about the legal side, but the way I understand it is that you basically provide an interface for people who already have legally compliant tokens, wherever it is, to find buyers and investors to just find each other. And because you don't do any of the issuing and stuff, that's all fine, right? People have to basically figure out their own legal compliance of their token locally wherever they are, right?
Yes.
So then on top of that, I haven't studied your project that deeply yet. I just wonder how your token works and how that ties into the product, basically.
Yeah, basically it's the tool for paying the functionalities, the issuance, and basically that's it. And even the experts, they pay to an escrow, and the escrow deploys back the funds to the expert, and then that's after the service is provided. So there's still BKN in that. So we created, actually this is on point in this page, we have various utilities, but we created all our product based around the token itself. We have utilities coming from the issuance, the payment of the fees, the monthly payments, and whatever for other functionalities, API calls, and then from the investor side, we're not pushing, for example, to get invested in BKN or paying dividends in BKN, because that right now could be a problem for many aspects.
Sure.
But right now, in a B2B relationship, we have it a little bit below.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have a question on tokenomics while we're here?
But I will have, but I think Sahil had a question. I think he wanted to go back to the maybe regulatory aspect.
Yeah, I was just coming to the aspect. So, Edwin, once a company, let's say, once a particular venture, let's say based out of Singapore, wants to list its security tokens or wants to utilize your platform for developing and listing the security tokens, your legal team reviews all the documents which are submitted by them, or you just work on the basis of their representations and warranties?
Yeah, based on the representations and warranties. Because in the end, if we want to scale, what we want to protect, it's the B2B relationship that compromise us with them. Kind of like at the beginning, we do a KYB, which is very hefty. Any of you can test, register, and then you will see all the KYC completion questionnaires that you have to fulfill. And we validate that data, and then we give you the information, because in reality, in the future, maybe you're not using a security, maybe it's a utility token, because our platform works the same way. We're doing an ERC20, and we have different factories of deployment. So one is going to be specialized for the issuance of ERC20. So that will be an issuance of a cryptocurrency or utility. In the security, let's say right now, with only the 32 clients that I have, I have validated every single one, and I have even made comments and stuff on some. But the idea is to learn from that and start embedding and educating more. And the law firms in the back will get a newsletter from us saying, hey, we got this information. We managed to manage this and this. So we're already updating our nodes of information or validation, because it actually is going to be the law firms supplying the services to the issuers. Because in the future, if we reach 1,000, we're not going to read all the prospectus and white paper and make sure that all our clients are fully doable, because in the end, that breaks the spirit of what I'm trying to create, which is just a Shopify. And if you go read the terms and conditions, Shopify, they say, hey, here are the tools and functionalities for you to create e-commerce store. But guess what? I wish you the best of luck, but you're not going to come to me. I'm not going to make sure that what you do is legal, because I already pretend that what you do is legal. And that's basically how you clean yourself when you're a software provider. You can't go and say everything, because then that would put me in the situation where I am acting as a broker. So thus I will have to go and get licensed as a broker. So this is my little play at legality.
I think we only have about 10 minutes left. right?
Yes,
So
please. I'll have a call later.
yeah, Patrick, do you want to ask your tokenomics question, or should we just have a little wrap up before?
Yeah, the strategic round. I could not find information how much you raised for it and all the details.
Oh, yeah. Right now, we've only raised 500 from Cointelegraph because we just started doing our strategic round like a month ago. So we're doing our roadshow. The block is 6 months, 12 months vesting, linear vesting after 6 months.
So the strategic round and the public round one are both happening in parallel?
Yeah. So 1 second. Let me share a link. Claim it. You will see my tokenomics in real time. Patrick, I'm going to give you access. You provide the information to the rest. But I think this is going to be super detailed as to, it says what is our inflation rate, when are things getting unlocked. So this is like a high level.
Very good. Then Patrick can later update his tokenomics review.
Either way, anybody has any more questions?
No, I have a final, just my impression from all of this, and maybe just my feedback to you, or maybe suggestion is
Please.
I understand the project very differently now after this. So I'm probably going to go into Curator and give you a marketing rating now. And in there, I'm going to say, I really do think that the website itself gives the wrong impression of what the product is, because it starts with saying create and sell tokens on the platform. And personally, I was almost like, oh, I'm going to actually try that. I actually created an account, but I was on the phone and then I didn't continue with it. But now I understand it's not an exchange, of course, but it's a place where token sellers basically can meet investors. And I really suggest that you write that as your website, because otherwise it's going to be, I would recommend people, until that's done, I would recommend people to not invest, because I feel like you're not going to attract the right customers that actually ultimately use the platform and buy the tokens if it's not clear what the platform is. Now you're attracting people who want to create token, and then you say, oh, we're not creating token. You can bring your token and you can sell it. So I think it's a very interesting product, but I strongly feel that the marketing needs to reflect more what the actual product is. So that's just my feedback to you. Take it or leave it, maybe. But
No, we'll definitely take it.
Let's see
We'll
if
definitely
anyone
take it.
else. Yeah. So he'll also maybe some final statements if you like.
Yeah, first of all, I echo completely the thoughts of Mark, the opinion of Mark, because my impression of website or the platform has been different as well. The way you have described it, Edwin, and you have described it appropriately, but that is not the way the website actually projects the platform as, number one. Number two, as I mentioned in the beginning, you need to be slightly more careful about your disclaimers and terms and conditions. Number three would be when you are onboarding the clients. You mentioned that you are currently focusing on their representation and warranties, and you have plans to go for their white papers or their memorandums. So I'll suggest that in this process as well, you and your team, considering that you have got quite a good team and you have got a head of legal as well, you should ideally be looking at the documents which they are submitting to their market authorities, your clients. For instance, if it's a Singaporean-based client, whatever memorandum or whatever exemption they are availing from Monetary Authority of Singapore, you should keep a copy for your records in order to ensure that your compliance framework is absolutely robust. These are my final thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, then, Edwin, you can give your closing statements as well, if you like.
No, thank you very much for this time. I will say we started with the wrong feed, but ended up with the right one. So yeah, who knows? Maybe I'm gonna jump in and provide some due diligence there. I like education a lot. So in that sense, if I can provide my true feedback as a lawyer, I would love to. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody. Hope we were able, or I was able, we were able because Brickken itself made a mistake on the website, which I right now send a message to the marketing team because we're gonna sit down today. We're just gonna check the copies to make sure everything is ready. Maybe it's a mistake there. Marketing is marketing, and we still have to sell.
Yeah.
So I understand high level people will do that. So now we have to fulfill how to mix everything together. But in the end, we also started. So we're growing as we go. We've been a couple of years in the space, yes, but we started still. So we have raised 2.6 million now, raising another couple of mil. Hopefully we can fulfill. But I feel confident, and I was hopefully able to transmit to you all how confident I am. But it's not because of the tech, it's not because of me, it's because of the team. we managed to secure a very solid team. All of them are docs on LinkedIn. You can find them, you can add them. And if you have any more questions, feel free to jump in our community and grill us in real time. It's not my first rodeo. I've been grilled a lot, but the only issue why, and I'm sorry for my initiation, was that there were statements, clear declarations that I thought were not on point. Hopefully I managed to change that, but if those persons still want to maintain their status, then there's nothing I can do. At least I did what I had to do as a CEO, and it's make sure I educate people on my project. That's it.
But it's appreciated that you came here to talk to us. And also make sure that they double check the calculation of the cap table, because I noticed some mistake there. It was small, but
Already changed it.
okay.
I already changed it. I changed it as soon as I received this speech. I was like, oh my God, how can we make such a stupid mistake?
It was
But
small. Okay.
It's small, it's
Happens.
important, but yeah, it was stupid. And you know who created that table? I did. So the mistake was mine when I was fulfilling those numbers in that table.
I've made the same mistake before.
All right, so
Very
it's
much.
been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I hope you have some appreciation for our community now and our opinions.
I do. You guys have a pretty strong team. I was checking a bunch of your guys' LinkedIn. I see some very high profile. I'm happy I didn't saw your profiles before I came here. So I'm just kidding. Have a great
Thank you
one,
very
team.
much. Have a good day, guys.